2026 won't magically become your year. No year will do that for you. Every new year arrives exactly the same. New numbers on the calendar, that familiar flicker of hope, and then, very quickly, everything slips back to the way it was. The only difference doesn't lie in the dates, but in how you live when no one is watching, when the new year hype has faded and the easy promises are gone. This video wasn't made to give you a quick dose of motivation or a temporary feel-good moment. It was made for those who are tired of breaking promises to themselves. For those who know deep down they are capable of more, yet feel held back by the invisible chains of habit, procrastination, and fear. If you're here, perhaps you don't need another new plan or louder cheers. Maybe what you need is a moment of raw honesty. To look at how you've been living and ask, if I don't change my stride, will 2026 or any other year truly be any different? Stay with me until the end. And if a moment resonates with you, leave a comment. Not for the algorithm, not for anyone else, but as a vow to yourself. 2026 is my year. Not because the year is special, but because this time you choose not to abandon yourself ever again. 1. The quiet truth we carry into every new year. There is a familiar pain that follows us into every new year. It isn't loud, it just lingers. A quiet ache of hope that this time things will be different. We all know that moment. When the clock strikes midnight, we silently promise ourselves that we will change, that we will rise, and finally live as the person we know we are capable of becoming. But then, life resumes. Work, responsibilities, and familiar distractions quickly sweep everything away. Those promises don't vanish instantly. They are eroded day by day. Before January even ends, the old rhythm returns, and we are faced with that familiar sense of disappointment, not because we didn't try, but because we truly believed that this time would be different. Many of us are exhausted in ways that are hard to put into words. It's the weight of failures that no one else sees. It's the nights spent lying in the dark, replaying moments and wishing, just wishing we had done things differently. And there are mornings when waking up feels heavy because we know the truth all too well. Nothing changes if we don't change first. This is not an accusation, nor is it an invitation for self-pity. This is simply a shared admission that many of us are standing in the exact same place. Weary, uncertain, but still refusing to give up. 2. Why nothing changes, even when you want it to. To move forward, we must first truly understand why we are standing still. And the first thing we must discard is the habit of rushing to label ourselves as lazy or incompetent. That is a sophisticated trap. It oversimplifies a problem that is deeply complex and inherently human. The truth is, most of us aren't stuck because we lack willpower or character. We are stuck for two deeper, quieter reasons. First, we are truly exhausted. Not the kind of tired you feel after a long day, but a cumulative fatigue born from unseen failures, restless nights, and the pressure of stepping into a new day while knowing deep down that nothing has changed. This exhaustion isn't an excuse to hide. It is a reality, and if we don't acknowledge it, we only push ourselves further away from real change. And then there is something even harder to admit. We've stopped believing in ourselves. This is the silent loop of procrastination. Every time we make a promise to ourselves and break it, even the smallest ones, we are quietly learning a dangerous lesson, that our own word cannot be trusted. Over time, that trust erodes, self-esteem weakens, and change begins to look like something distant, even impossible, because our own experience seems to prove that it never lasts. This is why the Stoic journey doesn't come to soothe us with easy comforts, nor does it come to criticize or shame us. It is a practical path, a path that dares to look straight at the truth, without cliches and without harsh self-blame. Stoicism acknowledges that we are tired, but it refuses to let that exhaustion be the final chapter of our story. And if you're wondering, how do I start believing in myself again when that well has run dry? Stay with me, because that is exactly where this journey truly begins. 3. The moment you take your life back. Every new year is like a blank page, and whether you like it or not, the pen is in your hand. This isn't just a poetic metaphor, it is a very practical reality. At some point, we must step out of the role of a passive bystander swept away by circumstances and return to being the active author of our own lives. There is a powerful image that reflects how many of us are living. An untrodden path soon becomes overgrown with weeds. It doesn't happen overnight, but bit by bit. At first, it's just a few blades of grass, but eventually the path nearly vanishes. Procrastination works the same way. Every day we fail to act, we aren't just standing still. We are allowing doubt, stagnation, and fear to grow, obscuring the path we once intended to walk. Stoicism doesn't teach us to wait for circumstances to change. It doesn't wait for a better boss, for the children to grow up, or for the market to stabilize. Because if we wait for perfect conditions, we might end up waiting for a lifetime. Freedom, in the Stoic sense, does not come from controlling the outside world, but from mastering your response to that world. Think about a common phrase. I want to travel, but my kids are too young. When we say this, we subconsciously turn a circumstance into a wall. But the person holding the pen doesn't stop there. They ask a different question. It's true that traveling with young children is complicated, but is it truly impossible? Then answers begin to surface. Italy has a great healthcare system. If we take a night flight, the kids might sleep through most of the journey. We can plan around their needs. The trip won't look the same as traveling solo, but it is entirely doable. By simply changing the question, a wall becomes a manageable hurdle. The truth is, most of the reasons holding us back are actually just obstacles that haven't been viewed correctly. An obstacle isn't a stop sign. It is an invitation to find another way. Perhaps slower, perhaps harder, but still a way forward. Perhaps it's time we stop waiting for a new chapter to appear on its own and start accepting a simple yet profound truth. No one else is going to write it for us. 4. The way forward. Built quietly, lived daily. What comes next aren't rigid rules designed to force you into becoming someone else. They are 4 pillars, sturdy enough to lean on when you're weary, yet practical enough to live by every day. Each pillar is not a distant destination, but a way of walking, slow, honest, and repeatable. But before we speak of any of that, there is one pillar that must be set down first, not because it is grander, but because without it, everything else remains just ink on paper. It isn't a massive plan or a loud resolution. It is something much simpler. Starting today, in silence. Because this journey doesn't begin with giant leaps, but in the moment we stop saying tomorrow and allow ourselves to do one very small thing right now. We all know that phrase, I'll just do it tomorrow. It sounds so comforting. It gives us a false sense of security, as if we still have time, still have choices. But that very comfort is what makes it dangerous. Procrastination isn't just a bad habit. Often, it's how we avoid the fear of failure and the discomfort of actually beginning. The truth is, you will rarely feel ready before you act. Motivation doesn't show up first. Motivation is born after you have started. And the paradox is this: Small, imperfect actions often possess the greatest power. You don't need to change your entire life in a day. You just need to do something small enough that you can't find an excuse. Learn 5 words of a new language. Write 1 sentence for that project you've been putting off. Send that message you've been hesitating to send.
These acts aren't grand. No one will applaud, but they matter. Think of procrastination as a layer of rust gripping your self-confidence. It doesn't destroy you instantly, but it erodes you bit by bit. And every small action you take today, even just 15 minutes, is like quietly wiping away that rust. It won't shine immediately, but it's enough to see that beneath it, the surface is still intact. Every action, no matter how small, is a vote for the person you are becoming. And today, if you can, cast 1 quiet vote for yourself. Once you've started, even with a tiny action, something else emerges: responsibility. This is where many stop, not because they don't know what to do, but because they subconsciously choose the easier path: blaming circumstances, others, or the timing. It sounds reasonable, but the price is devastating. Every time you say, "My boss is difficult, my family doesn't support me," or "my situation won't allow it," you are taking a step away from your own steering wheel. You put your life on wait mode, waiting for others to change, for conditions to improve, for the world to be less harsh. But when you shift your gaze, control immediately returns. It's no longer, "I can't," but "I can try. I can propose. I can ask. I can plan. If I'm rejected, at least I know exactly where I stand. If I'm accepted, I move forward." Responsibility doesn't make life easier, but it makes your life yours again. You cannot control the storm, but you can always adjust your sails. And to prevent slipping back into your old ways, you need something else: discipline. But not a harsh or punitive discipline. Discipline here is a deeply human act. Self-respect. Motivation comes and goes. Emotions shift daily, but discipline is the decision you repeat, even when the spark is gone. Choosing to read a few pages instead of scrolling through your phone before bed. Choosing to wake up on time. Choosing to do what you promised yourself, even when no one is watching. Each act is like laying a brick. 1 brick is nothing to speak of, but day after day, those bricks build a solid structure within you, a place where you are no longer pulled away by distractions, impulses, or fleeting emotions. And in that moment, you will understand something very different from what you once thought. Discipline doesn't take away your freedom. It creates it. But no one walks this long road alone. No matter how strong we are influenced by our environment and those around us. We quietly become like the people we spend our time with. So, find those who make you want to live better just by their presence. They don't need to push or preach. They just need to be walking, trying, and refusing to give up in silence. And there is one relationship just as vital: your relationship with the growing version of yourself. This requires constant learning, not to accumulate titles or degrees, but to keep your mind from rusting, to stay curious, to stay flexible, so that when the world changes, you don't crumble, you adapt. Imagine you are on a very long road. Walking alone is exhausting. It's easy to doubt and lose your way. But when you hear the footsteps of others walking with you, you don't need anyone to pull you along. Just knowing you aren't alone is enough to keep going. And when you carry the habit of daily learning, you will always have a compass to adjust your direction, no matter how the path ahead shifts. None of these things exist in isolation. Action feeds responsibility. Responsibility needs discipline to endure. Discipline only lasts when lived within the right environment and a spirit of learning. They are not separate steps, but a living system,
quiet, persistent, and strong enough to keep you standing on your own long journey. 5. Walking alone, but not by yourself. The journey of self-improvement is, for the most part, a solitary one. No one applauds when you wake up 30 minutes early. No one celebrates when you choose to read a few pages instead of turning on the TV. These quiet efforts happen every day, and usually only one person is witness to them: you. That is why, when we speak of community, we aren't talking about a place to lean on or a place to seek comfort. It's not about validation or applause. Community on this journey carries a different meaning. Imagine it as people walking in parallel. Each has their own path, their own pace, and their own unique struggles. No one pulls you along and no one walks for you. But simply knowing that others are also striving in silence, also maintaining discipline when no one is watching, and also facing battles very much like your own, that is enough. Their presence isn't there to lift you up with words, but to remind you that this path has been walked before, that it isn't an illusion, that living this way is possible. And sometimes it is that very silent companionship, quiet, without encouragement, that gives us the most enduring strength to keep moving forward. We have traveled a long way together, from acknowledging the exhaustion we've hidden for years, to facing the reasons why we've been stuck, and finally learning to reclaim our agency through choices that are small but real. This is not an easy path, but it is a real one. And more importantly, it is a path you can walk with your own 2 feet. Therefore, this final call is not an urge. It doesn't need a loud voice or a burst of emotion. It is just a moment to pause. A serious enough silence for you to be honest with yourself. If you are on this path, whether you are just starting or have been walking in silence for a long time, leave a comment below. Not for the algorithm, not for others to see, but as a silent promise reserved for yourself. 2026 is my year. Not because the new year holds any magic, but because starting today, you choose to live with more intention. Choosing action, however small. Choosing responsibility, however difficult. Choosing not to abandon yourself for another year. We don't need a new year. We need a more authentic version of ourselves, built day by day, in silence, and with self-respect.